there's nobody who wants to get better more than someone with cancer. So you have a partner. And the data was so impressive that the presenter, the doctor who presented, got a standing ovation. I rode 100 miles 2 years ago with a guy who's in the middle of his radiation therapy.
Wow.
And he rode 100 miles. Some people talk about a cure for cancer, and we need to talk about cures for cancer because each type of cancer is different.
Welcome to Augmented Wellness, where we meet the people in pursuit of better. Today, we speak with Dr. Stephen Nimer, Cancer Center Director, physician scientist, and cyclist.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Augmented Wellness. It's an honor today to have Dr. Nimer with us. He is a local institution in the health industry, but also community health. And we're going to talk more about all you do for the community. So it's an honor to have you here, Dr. Nimer, and excited to dig a little deeper on your life, your journey, and how do you see the future of cancer prevention, cancer treatment, especially out of Miami.
Well, thank you, Demian. It's great to be here with you. It's been great getting to know you over the past few years, and we have a lot of similarities in terms of what we want to accomplish for our community.
Yes, we do. So I like to go way back, and obviously we got to spend some time on the bike, some hours and hours. You shared a lot of your amazing story. So tell us a little bit about where were you born? What were those formative years that led you to have such a mission today?
Sure. I was born in Chicago. I'm a first-generation American. My father came from Moldova, and my mother came from Germany. They met in Chicago. I was born. My sister was born first. And then when I was 3, my parents were already worried about my education. So we went to a suburb just north of Chicago, and I went to public high school. My father was an economist. My mother finished college, had a degree, which was pretty unusual then. And I went off to college with an idea of maybe being in the medical profession. After a little bit of time in college, I decided that was probably the right thing for me. And so some of my roommates in college also went to medical school, and we're still in touch many, many years later as physicians. So I went to MIT as an undergrad.
Okay.
I was a big nerd, but I was super interested in ice hockey. And so I played on MIT's ice hockey team.
Okay.
And
Didn't know
that was a very important part of my world. I was always the first one to the rink before the practice started, and after practice was over, I stayed around. And as a freshman, I was voted most improved. And I think it probably says something about me back then.
Yeah.
Went to medical school at the University of Chicago, so I went back to Chicago. Had one of the winters, the actual temperature was 19 below for a couple of days with the wind chill minus 57.
Wow.
And so somehow after that, I wound up at UCLA, probably linked. And as a second-year student, I met a pathology professor named Janet Rowley. She was a phenomenal researcher. And then after meeting her, I decided I want to be a leukemia expert. Wow. So that's what I studied at UCLA. And, there's a lot of more details, but those were certainly the formative years. And then I did go to New York and now Miami, but I think it's a good start.
Yeah. So, and obviously, what is amazing, this is our 6th, 7th episode, and, we're showcasing people that make the world better. And it's incredible how similar, a lot of the stories are, and the drive that people have, and also sports, sports being a big part of who they are, especially early in life. So let's go back to those years.
Okay.
So you're playing hockey, you're in medical school. How was the world back then? I mean,
Well-
how was medical school? And obviously today you're still involved in not only in the medical profession but also in the university. You know, how has education changed? You know, and you as a student back then and today.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. I don't want to date myself exactly,
Yeah.
but I would say that, you know, when I was in college, the first calculators were coming out, HP calculators. And so they were about $800. And MIT had a policy that you couldn't bring a calculator into your exams and things like that because they knew that some students couldn't afford that. You know, my father worked 2 jobs so I could go to medical school. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And so, but then the calculator came into place, and then the computer came into place, and now we have AI. And so I think, one, I've never been afraid of technology, adverse to technology. When I take care of patients, it's very important. It's, I'd say there's like a 2x2 square for patients. One is whether people are afraid of technology or they love it. They love innovation or they're afraid. And second is, are they optimistic about things or pessimistic? So if you're a pessimist and you're afraid of technology, you're probably not going on a clinical trial.
Yeah.
But if you're an optimist and you believe in science and things, you're probably the first to volunteer. And so I think that my early training really exposed me. I'm sad to say that I was not a computer science major at MIT. I missed out. Some of my friends were starting Sun Micro or other things, but I was very focused on science and medicine. And then the sports is, you know, I think no one really knew about the importance of sleep or the importance of diet or exercise back then. Not at all. And now when you talk about wellness, and I'm sure we'll get into that, those are some of the most important things. And even when I did my medical training, we were all very, very, we were up all night every third night, and it was just a badge of honor.
Yep.
There was no idea that we were harming anything. And we had a favorite saying. So like at 2 or 3 in the morning, the residents would be walking around the hospital. And when we met each other, we would shake hands. And we would have an expression where the first person would say, working hard, and the answer was always hardly working, okay? And so the idea was no matter what time of the morning you were up taking care of patients, you were so tough you could do whatever. You weren't really working hard being up all night. You could be up for 2 nights in a row, whatever it was. So I think there was that mentality about endurance. And food was then like just eat whatever is out there. Notorious on a hospital ward. If someone brings, well, actually, a word to the wise. If you have a family member that's hospitalized, the first thing you should do is stop at a bakery or at a chocolate store and bring some on the first day that your friend or family member's in the hospital. The nurses and everybody will love you for the entire hospitalization. You'll get the most attention for like a box of chocolates because people get hungry.
And that's true today,
It's
right?
still absolutely true. And so I think there was really very little understanding. No one was talking about wellness. And of course, no one wanted to get sick, but there wasn't much except not smoking, you know, that people focused on.
Yeah, because you know, I mean, I've heard this. I mean, you heard a lot more than me, but sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive that, you know, doctors sometimes have worse habits than their patients, right? But it comes from, you know, sort of that, you know, that intense lifestyle that they sort of have, and the stress, and sometimes, you know, like me, I'm in the wellness industry, and sometimes it's like I should be taking, you know, my advice or the advice that we give, you know, to others through the company, but it's really hard when you're in these stressful jobs.
You know, I think the other part, there's a lot of randomness in the world.
Yeah.
Like, people smoke cigarettes, and why does one person get lung cancer and the others don't?
Yeah.
And I think as a doctor, you also see the randomness of things. And that tends, you tend to dissociate behaviors and risk from what happens. So, like, if you don't do something risky versus someone who does, it's probably similar outcome.
Yep.
But the person who does the risky thing, 1 in 1,000, something's going to happen. But you just ignore that when you see random stuff happening. But random stuff is not as random as you think.
Yeah.
And now we link a lot of things with other things. And so I think, like, if you're, when I was in medical school, there were all these runners, right? It was the era of the runner. I think it was Terry Fox and some other people. And Cooper, and he died of a heart attack. He was like running 10 miles a day or something. And then everybody says, look, why would you run?
Correct.
The guy got a heart attack anyhow.
Yeah.
And so, well, you run, it doesn't mean you'll never get a heart attack, but if you're running, you probably are going to have less heart attack than if you're not running.
Yep. So
I think that the randomness of things sometimes strikes you when you're actually in a profession.
Correct. So, let's talk about obviously, of all the things that you could do, in the medical field. I mean, I think you told me you chose, leukemia and cancer because it's really hard. Let's talk about that. I mean, what, that decision to go into it, was there, anything sort of that motivated you particular for cancer? Or was it just because it's so hard that you wanted to, to focus on it?
Yeah, I'd say there's at least two things. So first of all, anyone who gets cancer, there's nobody who wants to get better more than someone with cancer. So you have a partner. There's some things, if you take care of people who have high blood pressure, they don't realize anything until 20, 30 years later. So they don't take their medicine and they don't do other things. When people have cancer, they'll come to you and they say, Doc, you just tell me what to do. I'll change my diet. I'll change my lifestyle. I'll do whatever it is. I just want to get better. I want to see my kids grow old or whatever it is. So I was very struck by how great a partner you have in the patient with cancer. And then the leukemia patient. So of all the cancers, leukemia is the only one where if a patient is diagnosed, they get treated, usually involves 5 or 6 weeks in the hospital. Okay, and so during that time, if they're not taken care of properly, they can die from the effects of the treatment before they have a chance to be cured of their cancer. So to me, it seemed like if you were a really good doctor, you could keep people alive until they recovered from the treatment, and then you'd be curing more people. And so that seemed very concrete. I realize now, if you're a dermatologist and you have a patient who has terrible itching, okay, persistent itching, and so they can't concentrate, they can't go to work, they can't do anything, that if you can save that person's itching, fix the itching, you can get them back to life. So you don't have to be a cancer doctor to make a huge difference in people's lives, but at the time, it was a very dramatic thing. Also, people didn't even talk about cancer. I used to take care of people like someone's parents or grandparents. They didn't want to tell them they had cancer because it used to be they say, he's going to give up hope, she's going to give up hope. Please don't tell my mom she has cancer. And so that was part of the discussion back then. So I think I like the challenge.
Yeah, no, and obviously what a noble challenge, which obviously now brings me, maybe fast forward a little bit, and again, another conversation we had, you said, now I'm in an administrative role, right? I don't have that much time to take care of patients. So what, maybe, what were the steps, that sort of led you to where you are today, and how has your role changed today? Your mission is obviously the same. You want to help people and you want to, take hard challenges. But what is it, how do you see the world today in your role, and how do you see yourself having the biggest impact?
Yeah. So I would start by saying that when you take care of cancer patients or any patient, it's one at a time, right? So you take care of one, then the next, then the next. If you teach medical students and fellows how to take care of a patient, then they're all going off and they're taking care of people one at a time, but you have a huge impact. So I'm very proud. I've been at Sylvester since 2012. We've recruited a nice number, 305. We have 305 faculty so far that we've recruited since I've been there, and they're working every day taking care of thousands of patients. So I'm able to have an impact on what I do because I've brought people here, created a great collegial environment where teamwork is stressed and where we're very patient-centric, and so we can take care of people with amazing technology and therapies now. People are living longer than ever before. So that's been my mission. My own career is great, and I'm not worried about it, and I tell everybody, you never have to worry about me. I'm fine. I'm the head of the Cancer Center. It's a great job. I love what I do. But it's also about bringing people here and creating an environment for their careers, right? So the doctors and the researchers have to know they have all the resources that you could get anywhere else. And that is so important to me. And so the transformation also from taking care of leukemia patients to thinking about wellness has been something, the times have changed, right? Everyone's talking about wellness. More cancer survivors than ever before. I think there's opportunities there for wellness in cancer survivors. And then just in everybody. And as I get older, you know, I lost my parents. My dad died, I think, about 12 years ago, and my mom about 3. And for the first time, I realized it's possible that I'm going to die one day. I didn't think that was possible. And so I'm very interested, you know, how do we stay healthy? How do we prevent disease?
And wellness, wellness and Miami obviously are very linked. And obviously we had a lot of conversations about cancer wellness and the role. So let's talk a little bit, because you have Dr. Crane that is working, you know, to develop a tremendous amount of initiatives inside the institution. So how do you see that changing? And I know since we met, you got a Whoop now, right? And now you're tracking, you know, your wearables. You know, how do you see the change has happened, especially the last couple of years, and especially within the field of cancer? Yeah.
So first, let me just say I have a Oura Ring and a Whoop and an Apple Watch. Okay. And so I'm trying to get data.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the discrepancies of data that we see in that.
Yes. So I think having the data is great. We have really committed people. Like, the people want to stay well. And I said it earlier, if you've had a cancer diagnosis, there's a lot of anxiety and depression that go along with that. You're worried cancer could come back. You want to do things. We've never really had that much to say to people what to do. And so Tracy Crane and our lifestyle medicine program, we're measuring things, we're testing interventions. And that's the other thing. You know, I ride my bike with the Ulysses.
Yep.
And we're always talking about data and, you know, whether it be ketones or bicarb or whatever, is what's the data to support these things? Because people do stuff in the hopes that it works. People don't do 10 things usually. Maybe they do 3. Yep. What if they pick the wrong 3? And what if the other stuff is the better stuff for them? So we like to study things in our cancer center and at the medical school so we can advise people. You may think that taking creatine in the morning is the right time. Maybe that's not. Maybe you need double the dose. How would you know that? And if millions of people are doing these things, how can we understand? And obviously AI may help us in looking at all this data, but we've never before had any data like this. We've not had these kinds of interventions. And so I think the key is to empower people with knowledge. And for us at the university to say, this is what the studies show.
Correct. And So what are you seeing in this? At least in the data that you're doing. So as I was saying, Miami is a very interesting city for wellness because, generally speaking, is known as a city where, people, quote unquote, are happier. Obviously we live in. We don't have that cold that you mentioned here. People are very active. There's a lot of fitness everywhere you go. What are the interventions that you see are working, and how do you see it? Because obviously it's very different when someone is in the active treatment, and then what happens after the treatment. Maybe give us a little bit of your view of how things might be changing.
Sure. So what I like to say sometimes is when I lived in New York, right, I was in New York shape. Okay, what does that mean? I would say I'm fit enough to read a book. Okay. And then you come to Miami and I started road biking. Yep. And you get on a bike and you start talking to people like you or others, and turns out this one's doing triathlons and this one is doing the ultra race and this one's doing these things. People here are outdoors way different than in New York. It's just completely different. Yep. I lived in LA. People were out in LA and pretty fit there. But so the level is very different. And first, that's inspiring. We all get inspiration from different people. Yep. I'm told that sometimes I'm an inspiration just because I ride my bike so much and I'm getting old. Yeah. Okay?
Well, you just shared 400 miles last
month.
Wow.
Yeah. But people inspire me. I ride with Craig Robbins, and I've done that for over a decade. And he gets stronger every year, and I'm trying to figure that out. So it's possible to do that, and so that's exciting. And so I think, like even playing tennis, if you play with someone better than you get better. If you play with people worse all the time, your game deteriorates. And so I do think there's a competitive aspect of being in Miami and doing wellness. Yep. And one is fitness. Fitness and wellness aren't exactly the same thing. Yep. But it's like people look good and people want to know how well you look. It doesn't translate the same thing. Because when you're young, you can look good and be doing things that aren't so great. Yep. But I think that there's such interest in knowing what to do. So for our cancer patients, one of the things that's been a great experience and a great partnership for us and for me has been the Dolphins Cancer Challenge.
Correct.
And so people used to ride, and because they lost a family member, or sometimes the family member was in the middle of treatment and someone was riding. And then we started this program called Believe in You, and Believe in You is all about the patients. And so the first year we had 10 patients who participated in the DCC who had cancer treatment. And then the next year, 40. And then the next year, 100. And now this year, 200 people that are actively participating. I rode 100 miles 2 years ago with a guy who was in the middle of his radiation therapy.
Wow.
And he rode 100 miles. And when you say that to another patient who's getting radiation therapy, they are like amazed, right? It's a role model. They see that they can do things that they had never dreamed of.
Let's talk a little bit more about the DCC, because obviously I think that's how we met.
Yes.
It's one of the most inspiring things I've done as a cyclist. I think I shared a little bit, but I started cycling during COVID and really changed my life. I found a sport that I never thought was a sport for me. And then I started meeting amazing people, as you said, and then that led me to DCC. DCC is I call it a race. We know it's not a race. It's obviously a fundraiser, and some people race at the end, but it's a really fun event that you ride up to 100 miles, and then you have all sorts of other lengths that you could ride. It's a family event, but more importantly, it's an inspiring event where you get to celebrate the fight that those that are undergoing treatment have to go through. Those are fighting for them. Those are supporting them. Since I started the DCC, both of my parents have gone through some type of cancer situation. So it's very inspiring. So tell us a little bit more about how big it's gotten and the impact that it has and how it benefits the university.
Great. So in February, we had the 16th DCC. So it was my 14th. I missed the first two. But it was started because one of the Dolphins players, Mad Dog Mandich, had cancer that was treated at Sylvester. And so he actually rode his bike in the first event, and it's grown every single year. So in February, 8,700 people participated. There's a 5K, so most of the people do the 5K and don't get on a bike, but there were over 400 people who rode the 100 miles, and we raised $18 million, wow, which was the goal. And so overall, we've raised about $110 million. So every dollar that's raised for the DCC goes directly to Sylvester for cancer research and cancer care. It's helped us transform from being, when I got there, we were a local powerhouse, and then we became NCI, National Cancer Institute designated in 2019, and we're now a national powerhouse.
Wow.
We're actually a destination for quite a number of cancers where people fly. I always like to say, people fly from Palo Alto to Miami to come and see our experts. So it says something about what we've been able to do. We partner with the Miami Dolphins. It raises a lot of awareness. Tom Garfinkel and Steve Ross have been amazing partners, Javier Sanchez. And it's just such a fun day. I love it,
day.
Right?
Yes.
And biking is like the new golf, where you can hang out with people for a couple hours. I think you get a better workout than playing golf.
No, and I even raised, capital just riding. I remember, a couple of years ago, in one of I think it was one of the actually training rides that I met an investor and we raised some money there. So let's talk a little bit more about cancer today, right? Obviously, yes. It's, as you said, it's something that really makes people, change their perspective. Where are we? Where are we today? I mean, obviously, there's a ton of innovation happening, especially AI. AI now could do amazing things. Has it moved the needle in cancer? What makes you hopeful that we're getting closer to something more concrete?
Yeah. So first, some people talk about a cure for cancer, and we need to talk about cures for cancer because each type of cancer is different. There's not going to be one cure for all cancers, but we're getting much better at finding treatments that are immunotherapy is curing people of previously incurable cancers. In May was the ASCO meeting, the American Society of Clinical Oncology in Chicago. There's a great video. I encourage you to watch the clip. Mm-hmm. They presented on a new drug from Revolution Medicine for pancreas cancer.
Okay. And
in the audience is like 25,000 people. And the data was so impressive that the presenter, the doctor who presented, got a standing ovation because this drug is going to change the way pancreas cancer is treated. It doubled the survival of all the patients who got the drug, and they all got the drug with pretty advanced cancer. And so the hope is that will then be used in combination. There's a lot of cancers where we've been able to get rid of chemotherapy. We treat with different, like biological therapies. Right after that presentation about pancreas cancer, there was a lung cancer presentation with some new drugs that are more effective than the current drugs. So we're making great progress and quickly. The other thing is AI. So AI is being used now to help design new drugs. So we know many of the targets, but we don't have a drug that'll target it sufficiently. And so we have things that maybe partially target something, and with AI we can model how the structure is of the drug, change the structure, and get it to be more effective. And so that's on the horizon. So, and the other thing is I think AI is empowering people. So you don't have to know how to search the literature, the medical literature and things. You can go to ChatGPT, you can put in some questions. Doctors use open evidence a lot for things, and you can get a lot of information that's useful, like, what should I be doing, right? My mother has breast cancer at age 42. What should I do? And now AI will tell you a lot of things to do, and then you can go to your doctor and say, shouldn't I be doing these things?
Correct. So let's talk a little bit about AI in some of these different things that you mentioned. So first of all, on the pancreatic, presentation, what because I think we covered in one of the last episodes. Pancreas is one of the things that scares me the most. Pancreatic cancers, right? Because I've seen up close a number of situations where I think it's one of the most deadly, right? Of the cancers. So why does this one work? And I know that in some situations it doesn't work for, when I remember there's one there for the brain that overnight it cured the person. I think it was immunotherapy that it was very targeted, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
In this particular one for cancer, what is it that worked and what is it that made it so special?
Okay. So what we need to understand is the cancer grows and it needs some source of fuel. What's the fuel for the cancer? Usually the mutations in the cancer turn on a pathway that allows the cell to grow uncontrollably. In pancreas cancer, 90% of the time there's a mutation in a gene called RAS, R-A-S, okay? And so this has been known for a long time. It's also common in lung cancers too, and in other cancers, but almost all pancreas cancer has this mutation in RAS. No one's been able to target that. Now, in the last few years, there's some drugs that work to target it, but this is a pill that you take that targets. It's got a great name, daraxonrasib. Okay, it's easy to say.
And it's a pill.
It's a pill, but it's when RAS is on, which is the middle of the name of the drug, it targets that. That turned out to be a game changer. People have been trying to target this. Now finally they have. At Sylvester, we set up a couple of institutes. Okay, one, we have a pancreas cancer research institute. We also have a brain tumor research institute. Why did we pick those? Those are among the worst kind of cancers. You never want to have those. And so we want to show to our community here that we're studying them. If you get these terrible cancers, these aggressive cancers, let's call them terrible, that we're studying them and we're going to have the latest drugs. So the drug that's going to be FDA approved hopefully very soon is available, through clinical trials at Sylvester. And we're working on getting even more access to our patients for these life-saving drugs. And so we want to take on the most difficult. But right now there's over 18 million cancer survivors in the United States, which is 5% of the population.
Wow.
There's never been that many people. There's never been such a good prognosis if you have cancer. So instead of it being, quote, a death sentence, there's millions of people living with cancer that were never that way before.
Correct. So let's talk about, we talked a little bit about AI. Obviously, I'm in the AI space. I hear about all these frontier models, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's this whole, crisis going on because Fable, the model that Anthropic released, and then the U.S., now put an export restriction on.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the fear of what these models could do in cybersecurity and all that. What's happening with the relationship of those Anthropic and this company, this powerful model, and institutions such as yours? I mean, do you get access? Because everybody says, I'll get access, the people that are doing the cybersecurity, I get access to these models before anybody else, so I could see how dangerous they are. Are they also making them available to, institutions such as yours? What's going on, sort of, that you could speak about?
Right. I would say that we want to be we want to utilize things, but we want to also help innovate. And so we've spent a lot of time on our data sets to make sure we have the best data to use with AI. Now, when we don't use proprietary AI, then there's issues of patient security. Right. Like, we can't release patient information. We don't want that out in the general public. And our patients don't want their data shared with these companies.
Correct.
So it's been cautious, and it's also been different people are at different stages. So in the Cancer Center, we have a group that's involved in data science. Vasilios Stathios is one of the people, and Stefan Schur, the other really important people. And so we're curating our data, annotating our data, so that we can use our data to discover things. People use ChatGPT, some people use Claude. I think we're all very cautious that we can't put anything related to patients in any of these things. And so, and then we're trying to work to improve our ability, patient matching for clinical trials, figuring out, clinical trials is a big space. And, right now, we have to compare treatment A to treatment B. Sometimes it's placebo to the treatment. And if we could really use AI to generate a control group that's a virtual control group and get the FDA to approve that, that would be much better. The trials would go much faster. The best drugs would get approved a lot quicker. And so we're doing things in that space.
No, it's definitely an exciting space. So let's go into sort of the AI in the sort of human side, right? Mm-hmm. AI as a way to humanize. You mentioned that your role today is to educate and to have hundreds of doctors treating thousands. We had a doctor here yesterday that spoke about that the doctor's role is education, and it's basically not only educating others, but to treat other people, but also educating the patient. How do you see the role in AI? You talked about ChatGPT. Maybe we could play a little bit here. We always try to bring some of the agents to demonstrate what people, to people what our platform does. But I think one of the most interesting things for me has been when you put voice, right? Mm-hmm. When actually the agents could speak to someone, right? Especially someone that is going through that. How do you see sort of technology becoming more humanized for some of these patients?
Yeah. I would, when you say that the doctor's role is to educate, I would say the first role of the doctor is to listen, okay? And that you have to really, in my career as a cancer doctor, I understand these diseases. The disease is not the issue. The issue is the patient. How is the disease impacting the patient? How are you going to know that unless you ask questions and listen to the answers? So I think the first thing, and I alluded a little bit to this, these 4 types of people. Yep. But you have to educate the patient based on who the patient is. If you say to 10 different people the same thing, some of them it's going to resonate, and others it's going to be over their heads, and some of them are going to get bored. They're not even going to listen to the end of your sentence. So I think the education component has to be matched with the patient and the patient's family, and what are the needs? What needs to be said then? Sometimes not everything needs to be said at the beginning. Like if you're telling someone they have cancer, usually they don't hear another thing. So you're explaining all the details, and they're just going in their head, oh my God, I have cancer. What am I going to do? I'm going to die. I have cancer. And so sometimes you have to say things and say other things later. So what AI has tremendous opportunities to be able to personalize some of the responses in a way that if the patient doesn't like the way it's been personalized, they can work on it over time and then figure things out and get a personalized response. And, the doctors should be able to do that, but better than AI. But the fact is, doctors are busy, this and that. So AI has that opportunity to. Yeah, and
even let's see
maybe
here
Bett-i.
A little bit. Bett-i we could do, but for those that haven't experienced this, and obviously having you here. Maybe we have some doctors that listen to this. Obviously, it's very powerful how human these interactions come from. In my case, my dad would never be in GPT, but he talks to Bett-i every day. And I just shared in another episode how she got him to actually start walking again.
Okay.
Because she tracks his steps. So let's try to meet Bett-i here. See, we'll have a little chat here as we wrap up.
Hey, Demian. Let's bring this session to a smooth close. Anything else on your mind before we finish up?
Oh, you know that we're finishing up. Oh, great. So Bett-i, I'm here with Dr. Nimer from Sylvester. Can you research Sylvester Cancer Center in Miami?
Sure thing. Let me look up the Sylvester Cancer Center in Miami for you. Got it. The Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center is the only NCI-designated cancer center in South Florida, offering top-tier cancer diagnosis and treatment, per the University of Miami Health System. Anything else you'd like to know about it?
That's great. Well, that's good.
Good.
So, we're talking here a lot about data and about wearables, and give us give me a little bit of a glimpse of me. I mean, you could share my data. What wearables do I track? What biomarkers do you have for me? Give me a little bit of a showcase of how you know me.
Let's dive into what I've got. You're tracking with an Apple Watch, Oura Ring, and Whoop Band. From your latest labs, key biomarkers include things like ApoB, LDL, and vitamin D. Want me to give you a quick rundown of your current vitals or any specific data point?
Yeah. Give me a little bit well, don't share how bad I sleep, but yeah, you could do it. You share my sleep patterns. You're always trying to help me.
Let me pull up your sleep data from your wearables. One moment. From your wearables, last night you slept about 5 hours and 22 minutes, with a good chunk of REM at around 1 hour and 41 minutes. Deep sleep came in at about 1 hour and 9 minutes. How do you feel about that pattern?
Should be getting more sleep, Dr. Nimer. What do you think?
It's good REM, good deep sleep, not enough overall sleep. How much total time in bed did Demian have? Are you tracking that?
How much total time do I have in bed?
Absolutely. Last night, your total time in bed was around 7 hours and 4 minutes. Does that match how it felt to you?
Yeah, well, I was probably coding for a little bit before I went to sleep, unfortunately. Let's talk a little bit about my biomarkers. Give me, some of don't talk about my cardiovascular
about
ones.
vitamin D? She said vitamin D.
Vitamin D. Go. Talk a little about my sort of key biomarkers.
Let me pull up your latest biomarkers now. From your latest labs, I've got your vitamin D level and a few fitness markers. Your vitamin D looks solid, and your VO2 max is around 41.5. Anything specific you'd like to explore deeper?
Just give me the top 5 that I need to improve.
It looks like I don't have your full biomarker set right now, just a few fitness metrics. We can run a more complete panel if you'd like. Want to dig into that together?
No, that's good. This is enough. So thank you, Bett-i. You rock. I see you, I guess, later. We'll talk a little bit about my sleep tonight.
Anytime. Demian, we'll dive into your sleep next time. Take care and talk soon.
Yeah, there we have Bett-i.
Wow.
Interesting. But very interesting, the dynamic when it's voice. You should hear her Argentine accent.
Okay.
It's on point. I have this thing that... So what's interesting about Bett-i, the app, is you could choose any voice model, right? The one that you like the best. So, and it's interesting. They all are trained different, as you said. So OpenAI, I believe I don't know how they train these models, but they probably train it in different parts of the world because they have different, especially when you get into accents, different. But it goes back to what I was trying to say, that connection of a person to be able to talk to an AI that speaks in their own native Spanish or native whatever other language, that really feels not like a generic agent, but it feels like someone that would at least incentivize us to check in, and then that would turn into potentially the type of motivation that could lead into the lifestyle changes that we want.
Yeah, there's a guy at Sylvester named Frank Pinedo, Dr. Pinedo, and he does a lot of patient-reported outcomes. So what's fascinating when a cancer patient comes to see the doctor, they want to hear good news. right? So they frequently don't tell the doctor all the side effects they're having, because they know if they say, you know, doc, I still have pain here, I still have this or that, it may mean the cancer is still there or is not going away as quickly as it should. If they're asked a question by the computer, they put all the data into the computer. They don't realize that it's then going to go to the medical staff. So they'll say, oh, my pain is no better, I'm nauseated, whatever. So patient-reported outcomes are much more accurate than what the patients are willing to tell the doctor. And I can tell you, it's happened more than 1,000 times where the guy, my patient, says, Doc, I'm doing great, and then the wife says, tell him about your naps. And he goes, shh. She says, no, tell him that you take a 3-hour nap every afternoon. And he says, please don't tell the doctor that. And then you get the real lowdown. And so the wearables help you know what's really going on. And I think talking to Bett-i, it sounds like a nice relationship you have with Bett-i.
Yeah.
And that you'd be free to say real things to Bett-i that you may not want to tell your doctor.
No, and that's what we're seeing. That's what we're very excited about, you know, where the future lies in, especially scaling the ability of doctor to serve more people, right? Well, Dr. Nimer, I know, you have a busy day, so thank you so much for joining us. And I'll see you, out there on the roads. We're going to do some nice rides together.
This has been great, Demian. I appreciate you taking the time, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts.
Oh, thank you. So thank you. Another episode. I'm going to talk to Dr. Nimer here about, every episode we leave a little bit of a code artifact that people could play with. I was playing with, I want to tell you, I was surprised. I was actually looking at all the funded research that came out of the DCC, and I was trying to put a little knowledge base, of all the impact that had in different treatments. So I'll play with it a little bit more, and maybe we could release it so people could actually see where, all this amazing effort that 16 years of the DCC have gone into funding amazing doctors and amazing researchers that are creating incredible work to save people's lives. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next episode.